The Salvation Army continues to be a source of hope, stability and service to the residents of the US Gulf Coast 10 years after the most active and devastating hurricane season in history. The 2005 hurricane season included Katrina, Rita and Wilma. All three were record-breaking storms which spurred the Salvation Army's largest emergency disaster response ever.
This was an unprecedented relief effort. It would not have been possible without a generous outpouring of support. It's been an honor to serve the people of the Gulf Coast and partner with them to rebuild their vibrant communities.
178 mobile canteen feeding units and 11 field kitchens were brought in from across the country, with more than 5.6 million hot meals and 8.2 million sandwiches, snacks and drinks served to survivors and relief workers all along the Gulf Coast. 282,000 emergency disaster assistance cases were registered and more than 275,000 received emotional and spiritual care from Salvation Army personnel. Salvation Army today caught up with Major Dalton Cunningham, now retired, who was the divisional commander for Alabama, Louisiana, and Mississippi when the storm made landfall.
After Hurricane Katrina hit, as I made my way into the Gulf Shores area, getting through impassable roads that the military was helping to clear, I eventually got over to Biloxi looking for the Salvation Army. I saw all of the people who lived in that community sitting on what used to be their homes. And I said to them, "Do you know where the Salvation Army is?" They said, "Major, you're standing on it." And I looked at the folks and I said, "Has the Salvation Army served you?" And they said, "Yes, they fed us and they're wanting to come back." I waited for Major and Miss Wildish to return. And they both said to me, "Major, we've lost our home as well, and we've lost our core, but God sent us here. These are our people. We're staying and we're serving. Send help." And we're going to hold a prayer meeting on our concrete slab and allow these people to share and to grieve their loss. I discovered that same spirit with all the officers in the devastated areas and was never more proud to be an officer in the Salvation Army than I was then.
The Army quickly moved into long-term recovery by establishing 8 major distribution centers along the Gulf Coast, focusing on case management, reconstruction, and support for volunteer rebuild teams. Financial assistance programs also helped with home repair, job training, and other initiatives to aid long-term recovery in those communities. The Army was able to house more than 8,000 disaster workers at Salvation Army-sponsored volunteer villages. Continuity of social services is critical to the ongoing health of local communities. Volunteers, staff and officers have worked to restore basic social service programs to the Gulf Coast, reopening homeless shelters, community centers, a rehabilitation center, children's programs and church services.
The Salvation Army is a long-term part of the community in the Gulf Coast and everywhere in the United States where human need exists. After disasters large or small, personal or communal, people rely on us to help them get back on their feet. This is a responsibility we take very seriously. It is our mission and our calling.
We also honor Major Richard Brittle, who with his wife, Major Faye Brittle, were stranded with hundreds of survivors at the New Orleans Center of Hope until being set free in a dramatic helicopter rooftop rescue.
I learned that even in our doubts, God will show us the way. Even in our times of not knowing, and we can't see where the next step is, that God has a purpose and a plan there. But are we willing to dedicate ourselves to whatever He's called us to do? When people are in need, if we're truly committed to the Salvation Army principles, it's not a time to run, it's a time to get involved. Yes, we went through a traumatic time. We had difficulties each and every day. But I believe that God gave us the opportunities, either be with the women or the children, gave us opportunities of witness. And hopefully, from what's gone on, people that were there will think different about the Salvation Army, but also think different about their life and where they're headed with it.
There is a new video released this week that commemorates the Army's response and long-term care of that large community along the Gulf Coast.
The people on the Gulf Coast tell me on a weekly basis, if it wasn't for the Salvation Army, I don't know what we would have done. They said we went out searching for something and the Salvation Army was there. We couldn't find anyone else, but you guys were there.
In closing, we turn to Isaiah chapter 54, verse 10. Though the mountains move and the hills shake, my love shall be immovable and never fail, and my covenant of peace shall not be shaken. So says the Lord, who takes pity on you. Thank you for watching. For Salvation Army Today, I'm Chris Priest. God bless.